Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 29 of the number one lacrosse podcast in the world, Rise Up. I am back this week. Thank you very much to our producer, Danny Healy, for taking over my role. I was on a little vacation, but man, it's good to be back. I'm a little tired. I flew out of Portugal this morning, so I'm a little jet lagged, but man, it's good to be back on with you, Greg.
Yeah, welcome to the party, man. Good news, you don't have kids, so you can sleep as much as you want to catch up on it, dude.
And
Enjoy those years.
We'll see. We'll see. Back to work tomorrow morning, bright and early. I got a lot of emails to catch up on, and I should have done it this afternoon when I got back, but I've been kicking my feet up on the couch.
Those email responses would have sucked.
It would have been a pain. But man, you guys listened to the episode last week. You guys crushed it. You had some great picks, and I know you were ready to razz me a little bit about Princeton. But we had some great games last weekend that unfortunately I wasn't able to watch, but watched some YouTube highlights. I was following along on Twitter. Excited to chop it up, and man, we're really getting down to it. And also, you guys did a great job breaking down the draft picks. That was sweet to listen to. I was listening to it on a beach in Cascais, Portugal, and had a fantastic time. Was drinking a pina colada out of a pineapple. So
you had yourself a summer vacay in the spring. Good for you.
Exactly. The weather was like just warm enough where you could do the beach at night. It got a little bit cooler, but obviously I got that first sunburn of the season out of the way. So hopefully
I will get my sunburn out of the way this weekend. The Face Off Academy does our Western Showcase every year, so I'll be in Vegas, hoping to catch a little Loud Luxury at Wet Republic on Sunday before I head home. So I'll be nice and tan next week. Don't you worry.
Oh baby, that's a good one. I've only been out to Vegas once, and it was in February, so the pools weren't open or anything. That was like
Dad doesn't go to Vegas unless the pool's open because I don't do nighttime in Vegas. There's nothing for me there. I'm not a gambler and I don't like going to clubs. So
yeah,
pool parties during the day, that's just right.
I would love to get back out there for a pool party. I went just kind of like a random weekend with two of my buddies, which is awesome because like it wasn't like a big crowd where we really had to plan things. We just kind of rolled with it. We went to a Vegas Golden Knights game. We gambled, played some blackjack, did the concerts at night at clubs. But it was a quick, 2 days, 2 nights, get out of there. And
Golden Knights, man. That's my second squad. I was a day one Vegas fan. Any team that starts in Vegas, I'm a fan of.
Vegas Golden Knights,
by the way,
Dogs, Oakland A's.
I want to thank whoever's doing the lines for the NHL playoffs because I've been making a killing on the Golden Knights. They had no faith against the Oilers, and I was killing money lines with the Knights. So thank you.
I was rooting for the Oilers. I want to see McDavid get one. Now, once the Bruins got bounced, you root for greatness, right? McDavid needs to get one.
Yeah, what's greatness?
Making money.
Stanley Cup parade in Vegas. That's greatness.
You're not wrong there.
That cup is not going to survive that.
No. It barely survived Tampa when they had it on the boats. And then same with the Lombardi Trophy when the Tampa Bay Bucks won. Brady was throwing it from boat to boat. He was a little pretzeled, I think.
Well, we'll see who's going to be throwing the NCAA title around this year.
You know what? There's some great upsets, some great games. We'll recap the games from last weekend. We'll get into some previews for this weekend. We'll be joined by Scotty in a little bit. He's running in from a lesson, helping these kids get better with his 42 Performance LLC. We heard Greg talk about the Face Off Academy Showcase out in Vegas this weekend. I'm sure there's going to be a great showing there. And as always, shout out to Roback. They got the polos, they got the shorts, they got the sweatshirts. Make sure when you need to get your Roback Gitch, use promo code RISEUP20 to get all of your Roback needs coming up for this summer. And man, we got a great interview coming up. Your boy, Mike Sisselberger. Yes. What pick did he go in the draft? He was the first Fogo to go, right?
Fifth overall pick to the Archers, man.
First Fogo to go.
Yep. We knew that was going to drop at some point in the first round. I thought either he or the Chaos got their guy. We'll go over that later. But yeah, five face-off guys taken in the draft. You could tell once one was taken, everyone was a little nervous.
It was an arms race after that.
Yeah. But absolutely. Yeah, a lot of talent came out this year.
So yeah, we'll get into a little PLL talk. We'll get into obviously some NCAA recap and the preview for the games coming up. And like I said, we have an awesome interview. We'll talk to Mike about, his college career, historic college career at Lehigh. We'll touch upon probably, his wrestling experience, how it helps him on the field, and talk about his excitement for his rookie year in the PLL.
Yeah, it's going to be good, man. Single season all-time NCAA record holder. Not a bad dude at all. So it's going to be an awesome talk.
Yeah, without further ado, we'd love to turn it over to our interview with Mike Sisselberger. Mike, great to have you on, man. I know you were a few minutes late. We won't hold it against you. You beat Scotty on by a minute, so that's still a win.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Just a surreal opportunity, obviously growing up watching all these guys and just getting the chance to talk about something that I love and kind of share a passion for a lot of stuff, including lacrosse, weightlifting, and just common sense of humor. I'm really excited.
Oh, it's good.
Well,
it's good,
man. It's great to meet you virtually. I've been following you from afar, and I've heard nothing but great things from Greg about you, and he's just been singing your praises all year as we've been following you this season. And congratulations on being the first face-off man taken in the PLL draft. You want to start with that and speak about how excited you are for this upcoming summer?
Yeah, I mean, it's a surreal experience. I want to say thank you so much for that. Congratulations. I kind of tell people now the easy part's over. Now I got to go play and kind of live up to that hype. So I really wouldn't want it any other way. It all sounds great on paper being the first guy picked up off the draft. But like I said, it comes with a lot. It comes with a lot of weight on your shoulders. But I know it's like such a great crew behind me in the Face Off Academy, including Greg Beast, Jerry Raganese, and all of our coaching staff. I mean, I'm set up for success there, but I got to go out and do it. So that's the hardest part, I think. But just the opportunity, like I said, is something that I've been looking forward to kind of my whole life and my whole college career. So just being able and being so close to it. Training camp's like 2 weeks away, I think now. It's all coming really fast.
Mike, I think for me, it was a pleasure to get you as a guest because I kind of see similar characteristic between me, you, and Greg and Siebes. Yeah, maybe off the field. But going into this, my advice for you, man, I always like to give the young guys. We had Colin Kurst on here. We have some guys, the Kurst, Asher, young guys. Listen, the biggest thing you have going in there is the self-discipline, right? Self-discipline as a pro, dude. Like we don't practice every day together. So like that gym stuff, that weightlifting stuff, people that fucking made fun of you now and made fun of me and Greg, like, you meatheads, why are you lifting like this? Like you have camps, you have shit. It's like, because to stick around for so long, you need to be working that guy because you'll watch guys that go 1 or 2 years playing off of who they were and stopped lifting and stopped training. They fade out really quick. And the guys that stick with it and have that discipline, you're going to be able to have a long career and you have the talent to do it, brother. So I'm excited.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, just hearing it from you and obviously about to hear it from Greg, all the input there, it's surreal because you guys have done it. You've put in the work, not only in the weight room, but on the field. So it just goes to show it pays off. So I'm honestly just really excited to see what happens. And actually right now it's senior week at Lehigh. Everyone's down at Ocean City, Maryland. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to stick around here and get some lifting in and stuff and hang out with our strength coach. So kind of speaks on the discipline, but I also know there's work's not over. Job's not done.
Yeah. So who have you talked to from the Archers so far?
So I had the great opportunity of playing like the USA thing this kind of summer and fall. So I got to talk with Tom Schreiber, Grant Ament, Matt Moore, Jared Connors, obviously well-known household names there. But other than that, no one really have had a conversation with besides like a group me chat or like a text here and there.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. You guys report the Friday before Memorial Day?
I believe so. Yeah, I don't know if we have the exact stuff, but I know it's Memorial Day weekend because I had to cancel my plans.
Well, here's a question, Scotty. Maybe you can answer this. How American is it to have training camp during Memorial Day weekend?
It's something. I mean, that's like that.
American, or is it something that rhymes with communist?
Well, it's funny. It's funny you say that. It's funny you say that, Greg, because a couple episodes ago when we had Ryder on, he was like, hopefully Notre Dame keeps rolling, so can skip out on camp.
Yeah. I think that Mikey's about to get used to. Well, you have a week off, right? A couple weeks, 2 weeks off.
From now to training camp, I have a couple weeks off.
Yeah, your body's going to need that rest because Greg knows the grind. That's like 2-a-days and draws, and you're not taking draws against like anyone. It's taking a draw against a guy that's like wants your spot. It's like it's just different. Even when the third string goalie would show up, you'd be like, fuck, man, that guy's good as shit. Like, you gotta play well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I also think, you're displaying a characteristic that is important to understand when you become a professional athlete, especially a lacrosse player, because you're not going to be a millionaire.
Big S word.
Yeah. But you're going to miss some shit. Matt Rambo we had on here, and he was talking about if you're going to miss, if you're going to miss a game because you have to go to your friend's wedding, you're not a pro. And that's just the way it goes, unfortunately. That's the sacrifices we have to make. But also you're coaching face-offs too. So for you, it's beyond that. It's showing the kids that are watching you what's important and how you train. So, it's a good lesson. I want to circle back though to Lehigh, because I got the pleasure when I played it in the pros. My first season was with the Rattlers and Kevin Cassis. Kevin's actually the reason I wear 32, because he had 25 when I got to the Rattlers. Just a phenomenal human being, an absolute stud lacrosse player, but one of my favorite people in our sport. Also a two-way midi who faced off for Team USA for years. Tell me what it was like playing for Cassis.
I've been saying it a lot, but it's honestly a dream come true. I grew up with Coach Cassis. He actually coached my youth team. So just having him so young and just learning what greatness was at that age, it kind of segued me into being an aspiration really to be a player like him. So him taking face-offs and watching that 1990 film on YouTube and just seeing him play, I was like, I really would like to do this. Sorry, Coach, if you're watching this, not from the 90s. Everything was HD. So just learning from him, the aspects of the game, not only face-offs, but what it took to be a man, especially as a young man. I think he instilled some really good characteristics, not only in lacrosse, because everybody at that age doesn't go on to play at the next level, but he instilled really good qualities in all of us, no matter what we are continuing to do. And obviously, he continued to do that in my college career. Just some awesome stories. Thankfully, it never happened to me, but we ran a really tight ship at Lehigh. I don't know what other stories you guys have heard, but we our starting goalie this year, he forgot his shoes to breakfast one day on an away trip, and he's like, "Hey, man, I appreciate it, but that's not what a Lehigh lacrosse man does." So he actually got sat that game. So Coach really likes to just have good, hard
ownership
instilled in us. Ownership, yeah. And
dude. Yeah, Mike, I did that when I was in college, and I got a pass by Coach Corrigan, and I think we were kind of strapped. We were strapped for goalies at the time, but I forgot my helmet.
You pulled a Bruce Smith?
I forgot my helmet to we played Drexel, and we made a trip all the way out to Philly. I'm thinking everything's good. Go in for the pregame shoot around, getting geared up. I go, oh my God. And dude
how much did your heart stop?
Dude, I'm telling you right now, because my helmet is customized for a fat head. I never wanted to get a dual shell. So I was
stretch limo?
I gutted it. It was gutted on the inside. It was like a shell. So he's like, just use a helmet. I'm like, yo, I can't do this. I'm freaking out. Face-off guys and goalies are very similar about gear. Don't fuck with my pregame. So he gave me a pass. Coach Corrigan.
You played lights out in that game, didn't you?
Oh, dude, I fucking had 20 saves. I was so nervous that he was going to sit me, because that is a good learning tool. That is not how you do things. I was a fifth year too. I never made a mistake. And I was like, I remember from that moment on, dude, I fucking was 20 minutes early, 20 minutes late after practice just to get that, because Coach Corrigan would give me this look every day. I can't believe that. I cannot believe that.
Well, now that we've taken the scenic route on this conversation, we'll get back to Cassis, because I actually want to add something else there.
Yeah, but that's what I'm here for.
But no, this is perfect, Scotty, because remember how, and Sis, you tell us if this is true or not, how maybe not, you don't believe in luck or anything, but superstition. But we all kind of had a very regimented schedule in college about how things had to be leading up to a game, because you had so much time. But then you get to the pros, and Scotty learned in college what everybody used to learn in the MLL, which was guess what? Bus broke down for the second time on this trip. There's not a locker room. Guess what? We forgot, equipment guy doesn't have jerseys. And all of a sudden you start to realize I can play great with no sleep, without my gear, with a missing pair of cleats. And you start to really stop believing in superstition when you play pros.
Yeah.
But like, let's circle back to Cassis here, as you were saying about what he is as a, but also the question I want to ask you, because Cassis is, obviously a huge part, and you're also from that area.
Mm-hmm.
You could have, especially with the blanket waiver with 2020, at some point, like a lot of guys, you could have said, you know what, I'm going to go see if I can play for an ACC team or a Big Ten team. And I know plenty of schools would have jumped at you. You were the number one faceoff guy in the country for like 4 years. What made you consistently stay with Lehigh and Cassis?
I think the first thing that I look at is my family, obviously from being from here. So I actually lived at home for 2 years of college, and just having that like home cooked meal when you get back from practice and just having your family around you. But I guess a more grown up answer would be kind of like establishing myself in my own area. The Lehigh Valley, like I said, is something that I've always been a part of, and I would like to be successful in my own, domain. Because there's a lot of people here that have doubted me, especially after a couple of trials and tribulations early on in life. And I guess the biggest thing for me was thinking in the back of my head, you know what, if I leave now, I'm going to feel like I quit. I'm going to feel like I went somewhere else and never finished what I started here in the Lehigh Valley. So that's just a huge chip on my shoulder I think I'll always have, because even though people may not think it and some people may, I always just feel like someone's going to be in my ear just ready for me to make a mistake. So I'm not going to give them that opportunity, especially in my own hometown. So that's the biggest reason. I want to be the most successful man I can be here in the Lehigh Valley, and hopefully make a name for myself and hopefully a family later on in life.
It's like it's like we fucking had a test tube, took a little bit of what me and you had and threw it in like sis.
Yeah, Scotty and I had a baby.
Holy shit.
And then somebody else raised him correctly.
That's possible, right? Holy shit.
Yeah.
Can you guys tell me whose hairline I got? Because I got absolutely shafted.
You got mine, bud. You got Daddy
Absolutely
Rogers.
shafted.
Yeah, you got Daddy Rogers.
So that's super interesting. I knew you were from that area, but I think that's an amazing answer and so respectable that like you said, you wanted to finish where you started. Was growing up, you mentioned that Cassis coached you when you were young. Was it always Lehigh for you? Talk about like that recruiting. Was it Lehigh or bust? Were you looking at other options? What was that like?
Yeah, that's a great question. I honestly get it a lot more than I thought. So growing up, when I was committing, recruiting, you were getting recruited in like 8th grade, and they ended up changing that rule, which I think is for the better, because God knows in middle school what college you want to go to, let alone what you want to.
Nightmare.
Yeah,
2020 class is when they changed that,
and I feel bad.
God.
It was crazy because you don't know what you want to do for the rest of your life. You're still picking out your spandex to wear to the local dance.
Dude, you hadn't gone to high school yet. You hadn't taken your first high school class, and you're trying to figure out where you want to go to college. It made
no sense. It was just a cool thing to do. Yeah, it was just a cool thing to say, like, I'm going to the University of Maryland, and I'm in 8th grade, and I get Auburn prep. And I'm like, that's awesome. Can your mom take us to the movies later?
Right.
But yeah, so Lehigh recruited me young, which was a blessing, and I've always wanted to go there. But in all honesty, I wasn't really highly recruited coming out of 8th grade. I didn't really hit my stride or get discovered, I guess, until like sophomore year, when I started beating guys who were quote unquote like ranked on like Inside Lacrosse's 2018 sophomore rankings, which is
Ty Xanders.
Yeah, Ty Xanders. I always had beef with Ty Xanders growing up because I was never ranked.
Join the club.
Yeah, up until I was older, I always just pass him at tournaments. I just gave him like a stank eye. He's probably like, "Who is this 5'4", stocky little chubby kid giving me the dirty look?" And I look at him damn well. But no, I've actually got to talk to him about it. All is good there. But yes, I'd say up until sophomore year, I wasn't really high recruited, and Lehigh took a chance on me. So I thought I would remain loyal, and give back to them what they gave to me that chance.
I love that, man.
Yeah, they're now also, like you had touched on earlier, you got a chance to be with the USA training team, which never really happens for a college guy, especially a guy who's still in college. Mm-hmm. Like, I know Trevor came right out of school and he played with me in that gold medal team in 2018. But like, tell me about that experience, because I know I was there helping out and coaching for a little bit with it. You were crushing it.
Thank you so much. I mean, again, I know I'm going to say it a lot, but I just give so much credit to Greg Beast, obviously, and the whole coaching staff, Face-Off Academy, all the guys there, and it was just surreal. Because like I said, you look up to those guys that you watched growing up, and then you got to play against them, and you're still in college too. So that's like you're starstruck at the same time, but you're like, shit, like you got to win. Like you got to do your job. But I realized that I was there for a reason, and they invited me to come for a reason. So I was like, you know what, I belong here, even after having some good, some bad, like sessions. Everything worked out in the end, and I just remember talking to Greg about it. I was like, look, obviously coming off an 79.5% season, you expect to win. We'll round it up to 80. We'll say you expect to win 80% of your faceoffs. But when you go into an event like that against the best guys in the world, a 50% day is some people would call good. But you look at it like, I just came off a season where I went 80%, meaning, I mean, everybody knows it watching the podcast. You won 80% of the faceoffs. Everybody else that you played won 20% if we're taking average. It's effing nuts, and it probably won't ever happen again. Don't mean to toot my own horn. But
you're allowed to.
The NCAA will change the rules again, thinking they got us, and they'll screw it up, and somebody will go 90.
It's behind the back now. Stand up. Me and
Sisselberger and do our own sidebar.
But what Mike talked about was pretty awesome. There is, listen, I remember that feeling too, and Greg can remember it also, because when Greg was with San Francisco as a young guy, I was with Hamilton Nationals. I remember Brett Queener. You know, Brett Queener's the guy at the time. He's on all the magazines. He's running, scoring goals, and they're going, "Hey, you're going to start the first half. Greg's going to back. Queener's going to back up my first game." I was like, "Are you sure? Should someone tell him?" Or they're like, "You're going to tell him." I said, "I'm not going to tell him." What do you mean?
I'm just going to stand in the goal.
I'm 22 years old. So Huntley, who was my coach, you know, God rest his soul, he's the best. He was like, "Go tell him." So I had to go up to the locker room, pregame shooter. I'm like, "Hey, Brett, Coach Hunt said I'm getting to go tonight." And just like Brett Queener on point goes, "Over my dead body, you are." I said, "All right, well, looks like we're going to shoot around pretty hostile tonight."
Well, Brett, I got some bad news for you. It's not going to be my dead body.
And you had to play like that, Mike. You had to play like knowing that guy didn't want you to play. But guess what? I looked up to him. And I right now we're best friends. But yeah, that first couple games, yeah, man, that's part of business, right,
yeah. Greg? I went through the same thing with Beener, man. My rookie year, I faced off against Paul Cannabine, and I could not believe it was happening until like the seventh face-off. I was like, okay, yeah, this is happening.
Yeah.
Holy shit. What I'm curious is, Greg talks about on the podcast a lot the adjustment there is between college face-offs and professional face-offs. Is that something that you've kind of considered, Mike, or are changing your strategy going into training camp? Is that what are you thinking about that?
Yeah, I mean, I know Jerry's going to see this. I work with Jerry every day now that the season's over, and he suggested I stand up. I mean, I'm trying new things because everything's personal preference. So I haven't really decided yet. I mean, I've had success standing up, and I've had success knee down in the USA training camp. But I think the most important aspect that I look at it is like I'm versatile. So no matter what happens in the game, I can resort back to going stand up, or I can go on a knee. I think it's really important for a face-up guy to have both. Because if you're a one-trick pony, that doesn't really work really in any position in the league. So I'm really excited to see how that works, and I'm actually really excited to be able to do both. If that answers the question.
No,
if I've learned anything from Greg, it's just go early and you'll be fine.
Yes, just go on the second.
I can tell you from the goalie. I think goalies, like I said, goalies and faceoff guys very similar in the pro adjustment. I think for goalies, it's always we always say 2-year adjustment. The studs do it right away. Couple goalies do it right away, but it's all timing, right? It's all timing and speed. But also, you said something that's great. Just being able to kind of make changes on the fly and do it. And if you do it in game, you're going to be 10 times better than the guy that's like waits a whole game to make those changes because you'll be in the lineup. So, like I said, I think you have the IQ. You have Greg behind you, which he knows all the rule changes as they come by the second. So you'll be all right.
I'm cursed with knowledge.
You are. That's it.
I went through the same thing when I came in my rookie year. That my senior year in college was the first year I went knee down because they got rid of the set call in college that year, and I was like, I got to start on a knee so I could be down quicker. And then I was good at it, and I was like, crap. Like, I don't know what I should be doing in these pro games. The good news is I feel like you could do the same thing, But you also have to remember in the PLL, timing the whistle is important, but it's not nearly as important as NCAA, right? Like in the NCAA, you can clamp, you can rotate, box the dude out with your frame and catch it to yourself 30 times if you want. In the PLL, that field is shorter, and the wings are the best wings ever in the world, and they're a yard closer.
Yeah.
And Jake Withers proved you could win less than 10% of your clamps in a season and win a championship.
Yeah.
So
he's a scrappy
I'm gonna put it out there. Just do anything except be on a knee and go neutral grip. Go knee down moto or stand up neutral, please.
Hey Mike, what's the goal? The first goal celly gonna be like? That's what I'm into now. I want to know what that first goal celly is gonna be. Is it gonna be like a flex? Are we gonna a heartbreaker? What are we doing?
That's a great question. Honestly, I haven't even thought about it that far.
He's going to go hug Tommy Schreiber. He's going to
hug Tommy, break his back. Tommy's out for a week.
Tommy's out for a week.
I don't know. I gotta get the starting job first. Knock on wood. I got a really talented crew, and then I guess after that, I'll figure it out from there.
Let it out, dude. Just let it out.
Well, that's the other thing too. Is you got another FOA coach in Justin Inacio who's coming back from an ACL.
Exactly.
And you guys, I mean, that's a lot of knowledge and talent at one spot.
Yeah.
Which is pretty awesome to have that. So, yeah, I mean, have you spoken to Justin yet since you got drafted?
No, I haven't, which I would really like to do that. But I've just been kind of like a chicken with my head cut off, just trying to get in the best shape I can. So it's literally been waking up, going to Lehigh, work out with the strength coach, driving down to Jerry in New Jersey, which is like an hour 45 each way. So that's like whatever. I'm not good at math.
Don't do the math.
No, don't.
Yeah, that sounded right. That sounded right.
4 hours, facing off for 2 hours, working out for 3 hours. I get back home. It's nighttime. And then I have a girlfriend, love of my life, who I live with, actually.
Welcome to the pros, big fella.
Yeah. So I got a lot. I got a lot of stuff right now, but
welcome to the pros, brother.
And she loved you before you made all of that PLL money.
Yes. She loved me in high school, which is ironic because I was
good. That's what I always try to tell. I always tell Becca, you loved me before I was running around like a psycho, right?
Damn straight.
You were always running around like a psycho.
I was always a psycho. That was the catch in the claws. Yeah.
I got had a good time though. I mean, I had hair back then. I was a little less bulky. But hey, we're getting older now, and muscle.
Dude, don't just stop it. Don't tell me about getting older, man.
Yeah,
please, I don't know.
I'm 14 seconds away from 40. I don't want to hear about your older stories. You don't have a line on your face.
No, I'm excited.
So what's the other plan though? Like this summer, you're going to be playing in the PLL. Do you have any aspirations to play indoor too?
I mean, I have whatever aspirations are presented to me. I'm just grateful for every opportunity. So if I have the opportunity to play indoor, I definitely will take it. But people sleep on it. I wasn't the worst student in college. I actually got a job doing medical device sales here in the Lehigh Valley. So it's like, what can't this guy do, really? No, I'm just kidding.
So I did sales.
Yeah, sell me this pen.
I was great scene. For novice surgical here in the Lehigh Valley, medical device sales. So that's a dream come true. I'm just really, like I said, just grateful for everything.
It's awesome.
You're a Lehigh Valley lifer, man. I love it.
Oh, for life. The freaking novice surgical is like 15 minutes down the road. I just stopped at
how much easier can this guy have it? It's gonna be.
How often do you get over to Lancaster?
Honestly, I haven't been to Lancaster in a good bit, but I go sometimes with my family who loves the Shady Maple Smorgasbord.
Shady Maple Smorgasbord is a goddamn American institution.
Oh yeah.
Was it breakfast spot?
Dude, Scotty, this place is run by Mennonites. It is gargantuan.
Huge.
And it has all the food in the entire world there.
What are we talking? Like biscuits and gravy? What are we talking?
All of the food in the entire world.
Right, I'll take
and you pay I haven't been there in a while, but you pay like what, $20 and you literally eat until you're about to die.
Yeah.
I could do that, a buffet style.
It's great too. And it's just surrounded by the Amish community, nothing going on.
You could get a shed. Maybe you can walk out with a shed if you want.
Exactly.
Yeah. Get some firewood.
Yeah.
Maybe some candles.
You go eat. Your shed will be done by the time you're done eating.
Yeah. Yeah. Ezekiel will crush that for you.
Ezekiel could change your tire.
Yeah, we're big in the Amish community. I bet there's a lot of Amish watching this right now.
Oh, yeah.
I want you guys to know, even though you don't believe in electricity unless you're making a smorgasbord to make money off of us muggles, I appreciate you guys.
I appreciate that too.
Oh, shit. Oh,
Yeah,
shit.
Did you know you were coming on here to discuss Shady Maple smorgasbord?
No, he didn't know he didn't know he was coming on at all. He thought it was on Tuesday, which is today.
Yeah, just so everybody has a backstory. We were here for like 15 minutes wondering where he was. I call Mike, and he's all excited to talk. And I was like, "Where are you?" He goes, "I'm at home." I was like, "What? Why aren't you on the thing?" He goes, "Well, it's on Tuesday, isn't it?" I'm like, "Oh, shit."
Mike,
This
that's
is
perfect.
summer.
This kid's going to forget his elbow pads like 8 times.
Just
Someone will remind you.
summer after school. I don't know what days or what. And I feel horrible about that. I'm
That's
so
a good life. No, we're busted
dude, I
you.
got on here
Don't
just
feel horrible.
after you.
Scotty's late every week. It's fine.
Yeah.
I really just I don't I thought it was like Monday or either Monday or Wednesday, one of the two, just not Tuesday.
Monday. It's definitely
man,
Monday or
no.
Wednesday.
One of the two. I gotta write it on my
Simon
fingers.
came back from Portugal and he knows what time it is.
Yeah, that's on me.
Yeah, I had a long one, and I said you guys could handle it without me. Came on, but man, we're glad you came on. This has been a great interview. So great to meet you and have these guys on who always speak highly of you to hear you come talk about yourself, your accolades, and your aspirations. It's been great, fellas. Do you have any last questions for Mike before we cut him loose?
Who you got going to the Final Four, man?
Oh, that's a really good question. I have Duke. I'm gonna throw Army in there because it's a Patriot. I know it's a Patriot League thing, and they beat us, so I don't want us to look like shit. Although I graduated, so it doesn't really matter. I'll put Army in there, Duke, UVA, and Notre Dame.
Okay,
I like it.
Sounds right.
And
Strong.
Sounds right.
I would have Duke winning it.
It's gonna be one of those Duke Notre Dame games, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my take.
I know.
Okay.
Let's hope that we can change.
well,
this
Scotty and I will argue about that in the next segment. But Sis, thanks a lot for coming on, man. Love you, kid. Really glad to have you on here, buddy.
Yes, I'm a big fan of yours, man. I can't wait to watch it this summer.
I'm a huge fan of all you guys. Again, thank you so much for having me.
Yes, sir, brother.
See ya.
Best of luck going forward, man. We're rooting for you. Everybody, welcome back from that fantastic interview with Mike Sisselberger. What a guy, having him on. Reminds me just of you two. I know Scotty was making those mentions. Man, we had to get some bigger boxes on our Riverside chat to fit all this meat on the screen. But great interview. For the rest of the show, we have some recaps of the games last weekend, some round 2 upcoming games, quarterfinal games, and then we have some PLL updates. We have some 30-man rosters, some other league transaction news. But man, Scotty, good to see you. We missed you in the intro. Great to have you on. I know you rushed right on.
Got on, boys. Yep.
Yeah, I'm fading a little bit. I just telling you guys in the chat.
I got the rest, man. I actually ate airport sushi coming back from Houston, so I've been dealing with things pouring out the front and the back here for the last 24 hours. So we're good. We're alive.
Ooh, I'll tell you what. I ate so much fish this past week in Portugal. It's like I was like, I'm going to immerse myself in it, and I ate too much. I can't eat fish for a long time.
Yeah, don't get mercury poisoning. All right.
I didn't even think about that. But what they do there is they give you the fish with the bones in. So the first time I get it, I'm hammered off of a bottle of wine, and I take a big ass bite of a cod, and I'm just like pulling the bones out of my teeth. I'm like,
could have been the wine though. Could have been the vino though.
Oh yeah, it could have been.
Yeah, it could have been the vino.
Just working through it. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I've been away. As you can see from my nice tan, I didn't get to catch all the games last weekend, but I'd love to run through them. I know Greg's been hot with his picks.
Always is.
First game we had was UVA Richmond. I saw some clips. It was just an absolute mud pit there at Klockner, and playing on that grass field. Tsunami rain, but UVA took care of business in that interstate battle. I think we all assume that.
Yeah. Yeah, the first day's games were kind of a layup.
Yeah. We can move right on from that because Notre Dame took care of business with Utah. Utah had a great season coming out of that first ASUN championship, but Notre Dame just too much firepower. I saw a great clip of a pole pass to a pole, and then scoring. I was like, how'd they all get down that side of the field without it being offsides?
Dude, Utah didn't touch the ball for like the first quarter. It was one of the most perfect quarters of college lacrosse I've ever seen, where Will Lynch won every face-off
Yeah. And
Get
Liam
the ball on
Entenmann just got
offense,
his
cycle it
500.
around, score. If you don't score, pick it up. Like, it was just crazy.
Yeah, congrats to Entenmann for getting 500. I think he's one of like 7 players to get 500 saves in his career. I mean, that's hard. Listen, that's fucking. I only had 2 years of playing, so I had enough rubber in the tank. So he definitely hit the end of the rubber, and now he gets
another year left.
Oh, he's got another one. Jesus Christ, he's gonna have 700 saves. Maybe
700
800. He's gonna have 800 saves. He might be maybe one at the end. We'll see.
I mean, he's the backbone of that team right now. I feel like the offense gets a ton of credit, as they should, with the Kavanaugh brothers and them doing their thing. But he's the final line of defense, and he's keeping them going.
He gives the confidence. So listen, that confidence in the playoffs, it's huge to ride that confidence and have like a pillar back there. You need it. So,
dude, confidence is streaming through that whole team. They look
great.
They look like they're on a killing spree. Like, since last season. And now look, if you watch the games on ESPN, you were probably tired as hell of hearing this, but because they beat it to death. But it's like, you got snubbed last year, and they have been on a killing spree.
They have been, but Virginia is the one person in the killing spree that could kill back, I feel like.
Yeah, well, they don't see them this week, but you're right. They're on a collision course for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Next
game up was Army 16, Maryland 15, the first upset of the weekend. Fellas, you see anything good here?
Yeah, I was talking to Healy about it. Like, I had Army in this game.
It was +4 or something, right?
I had them covering, and I was like, dude, I didn't think it was an upset. I thought Army had proven all year that they're this good.
Agreed.
I think also Maryland is still, whether it's right or wrong, is still being compared to last year's Maryland team, which was historic. This is just a really good Maryland team. And in any other year, I don't think it would have been that big of a deal, but I think unfairly this team was compared to last year's team. Army has all the pieces to the puzzle. And Will Coletti, their faceoff guy, got off to a hot start, got them a bunch of possessions early, and they played great down the stretch. So I thought I wouldn't call this an upset.
So here's why I think it was, the way it was. So Army wasn't going to get into the tournament unless they got that Patriot League automatic bid because of the nature of their schedule and the nature of the RPI. Army lost their first game of the season against UMass. They lost by a goal to Cornell, and then they lost by a goal to a pretty good BU team. Those are their only 3 losses of the season. But because of their lackluster out of conference play, they didn't have a high RPI. So that's why, they only have 3 losses on the season. By a total of 4 goals.
RPI number standpoint.
Yeah.
I look at lacrosse like a lacrosse player though. And
I'm just telling you the rationale. I agree with you.
Yeah. Teams at the end of the season, how they're playing is the team that I look at. Couldn't give a shit what happened the first 3 games of the season. And Scotty knows this. Like, your team changes so much. These are kids, and it's over the course of 2 months. A lot of stuff happens. I'm looking at Army in that Patriot League tournament. I'm going, this team, same way I'm looking at Michigan, by the way. I'm like, this is the real team. This isn't a team that's just hot. This is a real team. This is how good they are. So yeah, and I did the same thing when it came to Princeton. I was judging Princeton based on the team that I knew they were capable of being. So yeah, I mean, look, everybody loves Coach Alberici.
Yep.
And if you're rooting against one of the academies, then you're weird.
Yep.
So it's good to see the Army dudes do their thing. And get to that next round.
We'll get into it in our previews, but I mean, you're going to be rooting against them next weekend or this weekend.
Well,
we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Next game we had was no shortage of offense. Georgetown 19, Yale 17. For the viewers, people watching at home, that must have been a fun one to watch. The Hoyas, excuse me.
Said the under never stood a chance in this game.
Scotty, you get to check out that game. We were haters on Georgetown early in the season. They haven't lost a game since February. What do you think here?
I don't think so. I don't think any of us were haters. I think
I was.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you were.
I think I always was on the fence of like, dude, there's so much talent there. It has to click at some point.
Yeah. I think you can go back to the receipts, and there's a lot of us talking after they started 0-3 this year.
Yeah. We still believed.
Right. We all believed in Kevin Warren. We all believed that they were going to get it going.
Sorry.
My Big East bias, but they took care of business. Yale was a team that we saw flashes of greatness all year long, but the biggest question mark for them was always their defense. When they were losing games, they were letting up close to 20 goals, and that's exactly what happened here. You're not going to win many games letting up 19.
I also want to give a shout out to Nick Ramsey, who played his last few years. I mean, he's played at Yale for, it feels like a million years at this point. Starting faceoff guy, had to like really soul search after last season and decided to change his stance up. And he had his best season. And he finished with going 56% against a team with James Riley as a starting faceoff guy who just got drafted into the PLL. So, shout out to Nick for making those changes this offseason. That's what happens when you focus on what your craft is in the offseason and you actually focus on improving yourself. So good for him.
Agreed.
Absolutely. Next game up on the recap was Hopkins taking care of business versus Bryant. A lot of people here were, I think, upset that Hopkins got an easier draw than some of the teams that were seated higher than them. Scotty, what's up with that?
I don't think it was easier. I don't think it's easier. I think the parity is great. I think that's just how the beauty of this tournament is. The conference winners will get a game, right? And
the thing that people were upset about was that the MAC conference winner played the CAA conference winner in the play-in, which was Marist, Delaware, and Bryant didn't have to do the play-in. And I think what I was reading was it was because of based off of travel budget by the NCAA, which is always kind of a red flag when that comes up. But I think it's hard to say because, right?
You could go a million ways, but
Delaware took Duke to the ropes. I mean, we can jump right to that game. Delaware, they've been great all year long. They've been a tough out for everyone. They didn't get blown out in any of their losses, and they took care of business in the CAA. And man, they took the number 1 seed to the last, minutes of that game.
Dude, at some point, somebody needs to start respecting Delaware in these rankings.
Yeah.
Delaware has been doing this for the last few years.
And they knocked off Georgetown last year.
If anyone can play with Duke or Delaware, though, Duke or Georgetown, it would be Delaware because of their size and athleticism. Their size and athleticism is always
and their coach
DeLuca is a great coach.
Freaking elite. Yeah. Now, I actually, when it came to we were talking about the picks last week, when it came to picking this game, dude, I had to go with the OU because I was like, Delaware is so good that I feel like they might be able to knock off Duke.
Right.
So I went with the under, and strictly, I went with the under strictly because of what's his name, Owen Grant. I was like, Owen Grant is the closest thing to Brody Merrill I've seen in a while, and I was like, at some point, the defense are going to put the clamps on the scoring, and this thing's going to hit the under. But yeah, Delaware. I hope they start getting more respect, man, because they're also recruiting well, and they're not going anywhere. They're gonna be this good.
I totally agree. I mean, Delaware is a team that
they should not have been in the playing game.
Me playing at Villanova, Delaware is a team we played every year, and it was never an easy out. It was always billed as a little bit of a trap game for us, exactly what you're saying, because the lack of respect. But that whole CAA is a tough conference, and they play good teams. If you look at the teams Delaware lost to this year, they lost to Villanova by 1, Michigan by 4, Hopkins by 2. They had a little bit of a misstep against Towson, and then they played them a week later and took care of business in the tournament, and they lost by a goal to Duke. I mean, that team is good. They're good fucking team.
Good.
Really good. They should not have been in the playing game. Bryant should have been in that playing game. And, when Penn State got Princeton and Hopkins, who didn't win the regular season Big Ten championship, and they didn't win the Big Ten tournament, got Bryant, the Penn State group chat was electric. But I was like, look, here's the thing, though. You got to win that. You got to beat everybody anyway. So if you're looking for the easy way through, then you're not confident that you're that good.
Some paths are easier than others, though, right? You don't want to play the 1 seed first weekend. But I have a question for both of you. If the seeding changes and Delaware gets Hopkins, do you think they take care of business against Hopkins? I mean, they took Duke to the wire.
See, but I think Hopkins is also
streaking
a dangerous team.
Hopkins offensively is going to shock some. I mean, they might shock Notre Dame with how many goals they could put up.
See, I think Bryant was.
Am I right there? That's the matchup, correct?
I think a lot of things would change those Sibes. You're right. I think a lot of things would change, though. Like, I thought Princeton was ranked way too low. I thought Bryant was ranked way too high.
Yeah.
If anything, I thought those two teams should have been swapped.
Well, so right, we were talking about this earlier. They only rank the top 8 teams.
Yes.
1 through 8. And then the matchups are determined on, they try to eliminate in-conference matchups, and then they try to make it the least burdensome for travel budgets.
Yeah.
So it might just be how the chips
you can like it or not until lacrosse is more profitable. That's the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
Does it make sense in a competitive standpoint? No. It should be 1 versus 16, 2 versus 15. Like that's the way it should be, but it's not. And if you want more teams in the tournament, because we only used to have 12. My freshman year at Penn State, that was the first year they went to 16 teams. And now we have a play-in game. So now you have more teams in the playoffs. If you want that many teams, you got to play within the budget. So it is what it is.
It is what it is.
But yeah, so I have one question before we move to the next game. Did you guys see the NCAA selection show reaction cam when teams were selected?
Bryant.
Some of them, yeah.
Okay. Every team was pretty excited. Some teams straight golf clap like Richmond.
Yeah.
Bryant, when they were selected, moshed the shit out of each other, tore their shirts off, and beat the living shit out of each other.
It's excitement, though. It's real excitement.
It's great. I loved it. But in hindsight, after what happened against Hopkins, is it hilarious?
Well,
so what I thought was weird is that they knew they were going to be in. So like
that's what I'm saying.
So
maybe they thought, you're thinking maybe they thought it was like, that's a good matchup for us.
Yeah. Like I'm thinking like, no, I think they were, they weren't in that large. So they acted like, it was like, I don't know. I thought it was completely for the camera, and I'm all for entertainment. So I was on board with it, but I think it was all for the camera. It was like, dude.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Better show up after that.
Well, my senior year at Villanova, we were a bubble team, and our coach texted all of us, come to the locker room for the selection show. And I'm like, we just lost in the Big East semis. I'm, coming off a bender. I'm like, if I go down, show up, put on my travel gear, and show up to this thing, and we don't get picked, I'm gonna start breaking shit. Like, right. And then we did get in and we all went nuts. But like looking back on it, they wouldn't have invited us to the locker room together if they didn't know,
right.
Get a little heads up like, hey, you're going to be in, get the cameras ready. But we reacted like that because we were like the bubble team.
Yeah. So and then what happened in the first round? What'd you guys do in the first round?
We got stomped by Duke.
Yeah.
But no, that's my point.
Duke was ranked what?
High. They were playing in the national championship that year.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, look, I'm just adding that for entertainment value.
No. I agree. That's my whole thing was, they knew they were going to be in. So
after that shit show, the rest of the games on Sunday were awesome.
He's such a dude.
Michigan, Cornell. Holy shit. The Wolverines can't lose. The Wolverines can't lose.
Exactly what I thought it was going to be, dude. Like it was back and forth face-offs. I think there were like 3 or 4 points off of face-offs in that game. Neither team could stop each other in the second half. It was electric. It was great to watch.
I was looking at the bracket and I said to myself, if any upset's going to happen, it's going to be this game. Whoever gets matched up with Cornell, I thought had the best chance to upset because I knew Cornell was going to be seeded. And I don't know. I just don't think the Ivies, had a great showing out of conference this year. Which led me to believe that some teams that maybe weren't getting as much love in other conferences, maybe because they're the 2 or the 3 team in other conferences, would have a good shot against Cornell being,
I think the Ivies, fellas, real quick, I think the Ivies earned their reputation the last couple of years that we might have brought into this year. I think, I think we always thought like 4 teams are coming out. 4 teams deserve to come out because of what they do to each other all year. But this year it was a little different. Maybe this year they weren't at the top of it wasn't the strongest conference.
There's also something to be said here for the fact that Cornell won the regular season Ivy League championship, right?
Right.
They played Michigan, who was the Big Ten tournament champion, and they lost by 1 goal. And then you had Penn State, who was the regular season Big Ten champion, playing Princeton, who was the tournament Ivy League champion.
Correct.
And they lost by 1 goal. So they're not, the Ivy Leagues weren't that down. I just think when you compare them to the ACC, I think because the Big Ten was so good this year and had more teams.
The Big
I just
Ten
thought there were more.
two.
Yeah, I thought there were more elite teams in the Big Ten, and it makes the Ivies look not as good.
Right.
When I still think the Ivies were good. They just beat the shit out of each other.
I think it was ACC, Big Ten, Ivies this year. In the past, we might have said ACC, Ivy, Big Ten.
Yeah.
It just made a change.
I mean, the emergence of Michigan coming out of the Big Ten is, I mean, hats off to Coach Connery and everything he's done this year.
Connery's the man.
Yeah,
good for him.
Yep.
We all knew this day was coming.
We've seen so much success recently in the Big Ten between Rutgers and Ohio State. And, this year, they had a down year and Michigan picked it right up. And they,
and Hopkins. Shout out to Willie and Kester are in that squad. I mean, Hopkins' rise back to national prominence is a huge deal. And when you have Ohio State, who I thought preseason was going to contend, and Rutgers has really been in the conversation the last couple of years because they've capitalized on the portal. And they had duds of seasons, but they were in the Big Ten, which is like...
Sorry, boys. I'm just texting with Paulie Rabel right now. He's trying to get me to work Rabel overnight camp. I said, maybe I'll work the camp this summer.
Tell Paul,
tell
Paul to come work the Rise Up overnight camp.
If you show up on the pod. Correct. So we're just talking right now. Sorry, boys.
Yeah. It's okay. You came late and now you're talking on your phone.
Get me some 9.9.
Shit, man. Can't wait for your weekend this weekend. Gonna be a good weekend?
Yeah. It's gonna be
good. All right, here we go. Let's proceed. Fucker.
So Penn State, Princeton. Let's talk Penn State, Princeton. Okay. That game was awesome. Okay. And I said this, get me my receipts. Okay. Yep. I said it on this pod last week. I said, I'm taking Princeton at 1.5 because if Penn State wins this game, it's going to be by 1 goal.
Yep.
Right out of the gates, Princeton started stomping them, and it looked like it was going to get ugly. It gave a lot of people reminders of when Yale beat up on Penn State in the Final Four a few years ago.
Yeah.
But I've said that before on this podcast. As a Penn State alumni, I've been watching Penn State lacrosse for years. This team's different. They don't get scared when they get down.
Couple down, yeah.
Yeah, dude, last year, Penn State had a 2-win season, and everyone was like, they suck. It was like, dude, 5 of those losses were 1-goal games.
Yep.
This year, they flipped the script, and when they get down, they don't go out. They started winning faceoffs in the second half. Their offense is so efficient, and they have kids who can sling it.
I coach Ethan Long, dude. Ethan Long.
Yeah, dude, you can't just lock off one person. There's mismatches all the time in the midfield. If you bring a pole up from the attack to cover a midfielder, now you're screwed on the attack.
Yeah.
So it's just, kudos to them. Now, here's the biggest thing. Coach Tambroni is the man for a reason. They played man-to-man in the first half against Princeton. They got shellacked. They came out in the second half. They invert on offense, and they go to a zone. And Princeton didn't score for like 20 minutes. And it went from like a 9-2 or 7-1 game to 12-9 real quick. And just hats off, man. They trust their goalie. The kid is unbelievable.
Scotty, I was exactly going to ask you this. I know at Notre Dame, you guys probably weren't big on playing zone defense, but like if you're feeling your groove as a goalie like this Penn State kid is, aren't you like, give me those 12 to 15-yard shots. I don't mind sitting in zone. Those are the ones I want to see.
So with the field that's left, I would always say, I actually did a camp this past weekend where we were coaching youth coaches, and they were asking us, how would we coach defense? Do you guys do zone? And I say, if you play zone in fucking youth lacrosse, you have no respect from me, right? But now you're thinking about Virginia, Duke, Notre Dame. Guess what? You want to stop a well-oiled machine? You put a kink in the
wrinkles,
in the goddamn everything. So a zone has always been a kink, and it's like it's a big one or it's a little one. If you have a great goalie, it is a big kink in that chain.
You need a good goalie to run a good zone,
and he's an All-American, and he played like it.
And if you could sit that, you take a lot of stress off your slide and your recovery. Your slide and your recovery cannot be retaught, and it cannot be game planned in a week, especially in the playoffs. I don't care what anyone says, but a zone wrinkle could be very effective within a week. So I think that this is going to be perfect for what they're trying to do with throwing little kinks in these offenses that are just going, like we talked about, Notre Dame's offense is just all cylinders. Well, how do you get that if you ever run into them, or Duke or Virginia or even Georgetown at this rate? You're going to need some sort of something to throw a cog in the machine.
On top of that, Scotty, you can bet your ass Army has to spend a lot of time this week practicing against the zone.
And if they don't have outside shooters, they're going to have to work extra hard for that shot, that 8 to 10 yard look.
Here's what I always said, and I've brought this up in the past, is if you start to see teams starting to have a ton of success, maybe even winning conference championships, winning big games constantly with zone, copycats happen, more zone. Does the NCAA put a 2-point line?
Well, here's the thing. Good. I love that. Because this could happen in this tournament. But if Georgetown's up and Tucker Dornovic's shooting that ball from 15, I don't think his zone matters. So I think he busts that ball open like he always has.
The other thing, Scotty, you brought up a good point is, as we get deeper in the tournament, everyone has tape from everyone in the whole season. You can't keep doing the same thing against these great coaches who are left, right? These coaches that are still coaching are there for a reason. They're going to game plan. So if you can throw in that wrinkle that's new, that there's not as much tape on, that's what's going to screw with these offenses.
So I know, I can tell you guys, I know I don't want to go too, Greg counts my rants. I'm on my third. So, I just want to make sure, listen, when I was in this run, I knew our offense wasn't going to turn into a juggernaut overnight. We weren't winning games by more than 2 goals. So we knew going into that natty champ against Duke, who was high-powered, we're going to maybe have to only get – it was a lot of stress on our defense, but we said we can't give up above 7 goals. And we kept it to 6-5, but we still lost. But guess what? We kept it within a range where we could strike. I think every team knows their chemistry. I hope you do at this point in the tournament. You know who you are. And if that's who you are at Penn State and you know your offense is going to put the ball efficiently in the cage, maybe sticking with, if it ain't broke, you don't fix it because you're riding the guy. I also
think you can go in and out of it. Even in the second half, Penn State went in and out of the zone. And look, when I played I think my last 2 years with the Redwoods, our defense, we actually had Doc came and was an assistant coach helping us with the defense. And we went in and out of his zone a couple times while he was there. And guess what? Even in the pros, with a 2-point line and a shot clock and the greatest shooters in the world, it would stifle a team sometimes when you're got like a minute left on the clock in the second half or in the first half and you want to stifle a team real quick on an out of bounds. So yeah, it's a good wrinkle. And at the biggest thing is, and you'll hear NFL coaches talk about this all the time, at the very least, it takes away practice time from the opposition to now have to focus on that thing.
So, and also, lastly, I know Heels needs this plug. Paulie Rabe says, tell the pod, let's fucking go. So that's from Paulie, big supporter of the pod. But also, listen, preparing, I remember Maryland, Coach Cotto, we were sitting in a car a couple weeks ago, and he was telling me, I remember preparing for you in that playoff run. And they were saying they put a goalie in full football pads, shoulder pads and everything. And he goes, I think looking back, us just preparing for you got in our head. So, preparing for one person or a system all week could maybe sometimes throw that rhythm off alone. So
one of the biggest things I ever had pride about when I played pro was that I knew that teams were wasting time trying to figure out.
Oh, yeah, we were. We were. We watched. You know what? You took up a lot of Jimmy John's Fridays, buddy. A lot of them. We were like, Coach, we're trying to go watch the NBA playoffs. He's like, we got to prepare for Beast. I'm like, bro, can you just keep the rope unit? No, the whole team's got to stick around.
You can prepare for it. Just get ready to run to the box. You're all good.
Yeah.
Well, let's let's
preview the games coming up, and I'm going to rattle off all 4 games, and I want each of you to give me which game you're looking forward to the most, and which game you think will be the biggest blowout.
Good.
Ooh, okay.
Games we have: G-Town versus UVA, Michigan Duke, Army Penn State, Hopkins Notre Dame.
Michigan Duke's the biggest blowout for me. Highest scoring game, Virginia Georgetown, about 19-18, 20-19. And then we have that Notre Dame Hopkins game. I honestly believe if the Hopkins goalie, the little guy, that if he gets hot, dude, I mean, I know Edmonton's going to be there, but it could turn into a goalie battle. So I'm thinking that game's going to be a little closer than people think. And then the 4th game was what?
Army Penn State.
that's my I think that's my most entertaining and probably closest game of the week. I think that will be the most competitive game. Like I said, hindering on if that Hopkins goalie goes off. I think Hopkins will put a couple G's in, but I also think Notre Dame's just it's a lot. So if they can kind of withstand it.
That's a great answer. Yeah, I feel like you just went Will Farrell. I just blacked out. What did I just say?
I blacked out. I'm an analyst. I've been hanging out with you two nerds for too long. I'm starting to analyze games. And that's where we're getting to.
No, that was great. Greg, what do you got?
That was really good, Scotty. I think, well, I'm looking at DraftKings here. I'm looking at the lines.
Oh, you're cheating. That's cheating. I want initial I want just reaction.
What are you talking about cheating? Why don't you just shut up and take some free money from me?
All right.
So I think Notre Dame is a 4.5 goal favorite, and I think Hopkins is going to cover there. I think Hopkins will lose, but it'll be tighter than that. I think it'll be like 3. I also think that Michigan versus Duke is going to be interesting because Duke is a -3 favorite. The reason Michigan has been able to do what they've been doing is offensive efficiency.
Two-headed dragon on face-off, right?
And they have a two-headed dragon on face-offs. Their second face-off guy got drafted. Okay? The guy who's taken the second most face-offs on the team just got drafted. That's how good they are. And their first-string guy, Justin Wiefeld, is an All-American. So that is ridiculous to have that kind of production from two guys at once in a season. But they are playing against Jake Naso. Jake Naso is a first-team All-American this year, and rightfully so. But I think Michigan has made their runs because they have an overwhelming face-off advantage. I think that this will be more of an even face-off battle, and the more face-offs that are taken, the better it favors Michigan because Jake Naso is one man versus two. So I think Duke covers at -3 because of that. And then Georgetown versus Virginia, I think, is going to be the biggest win. I think Virginia is going to have an overwhelming face-off advantage. I like Riley, but I think that Petey LaSalla this is his 10th round, and he's going to go out like an absolute stud. And when Virginia's getting the ball that often, that offense looks like they're barely trying sometimes. I think it's a 29.5 OU. Over. And I still don't think that's high enough. I think it's gonna go over.
29.5. They're daring you to bet the under.
Yeah, they are.
I'm
waiting for that OU to drop a little bit to be more sure. But and then Penn State, I can't bet on Penn State versus Army because I'm in New York. But on Friday, when I fly to Vegas, when I land, I'll be betting. I think the spread last time I saw was Penn State -2. Okay, it was 2.5.
Okay.
And once again, I'm going to take Army to cover, and I think Penn State's going to win by 1, probably even overtime.
I'll tell you what, I was shocked that Army put up 16 goals versus Maryland. I think that is just a high goal total for them.
Well, I think that's also another opportunity for people to see the difference in, so for instance, we talk about face-offs and how it's not fair because a face-off guy can completely change a game. They change the game in the fact that if you're used to winning a high percentage of face-offs, your offense and your defense could be less efficient because you're so used to winning an overwhelming amount. When you only win 50% and for stretches you don't have the ball, it actually changes the whole way you're used to playing. Now, I don't subscribe to the fact that if you have the better face-off guy, you automatically win a championship because in the last 20 years, there's only been 2 first-team All-American face-off men who've won a national championship. But I think it does make a difference for Weirman and Maryland. So when you look at Army coming in against Penn State, Will Coletti is a really dynamic athlete. And the problem Penn State's going to have is if Chase Mullins doesn't get that ball off the line quick, Coletti's going to counter and steal it back. And if Army wins, 5, 6, 7 faceoffs in a row, they can put the ball in the net every time if they wanted to.
I mean, I think you're onto something there for sure.
You got 2 big analysts right there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for all these games. I think.
Sorry, we started talking betting, and I dialed in.
So I think both of you hit the nail on the head. That Georgetown UVA game is going to be fireworks. If G-Town can hang around, I think 2 years ago, Georgetown took care of business against Syracuse in the first round and then met up with UVA in the second round and got their doors blown off.
Hey, who's the number one? The number one D picks Will Bowen, right?
He didn't go first overall, did he?
Was it first? Well, he's how many Georgetown defensemen?
Adler went first.
How many Georgetown?
I think Will Bowen is the reigning defensive player of the year, whatever that award's called.
Okay, and then so did what's his name's brother went, right? Rowletts or no?
He's a Michigan face-off guy.
Rowlett,
Oh,
Nick
okay.
Rowlett.
All right,
Yeah, got drafted by K-Op.
All right, so it's just one defenseman on. So if the reigning defenseman of the year could neutralize Schellenberger, right? I'm almost there, boys. This is pretty good for me on hits. That's a win. I think that's a win, and that's a stud on a stud, and that's how you would usually want to cover to neutralize a best player. If that happens, which in the pros we get used to, that's that kid's first probably. That's a good test before you get into the pro game. Can you neutralize that guy? Because that guy's going to be around the pros for years after too. So that's how you know I would be pumped up for that matchup. That's the matchup I'm watching.
I hear you guys. That's our recap or in our preview for games coming up. We have a lot of lacrosse left, but man, we're coming down to it. Is there anything else you guys want to add for those games coming up?
No, I think what we do is we finish by talking about Lyle Thompson.
Absolutely. Lyle Thompson announced that he's taking a year away from the PLL to
mental health right here, baby. Mental health, better help.
Get better help. Sponsor the podcast, please.
Lyle had said in the past that he always wanted to be able to coach his kids. And look, I mean, he looks at, I think and Americans for the most part think of lacrosse as a sport, but for Lyle and his family and a lot of people, it's the game. It's the medicine game. And I think it's, for him, he doesn't want it to be something that detracts him from his family, but it adds. So I give him a ton of credit because it's not easy to walk away from that competitive type of thing. But he can still play during the summers, and he can stay where he needs to be around his family. So a lot of credit to him. I know we were actually talking about what if the Cannons moved Lyle, what that would look like, and now we actually have a serious discussion about it. I think Ryan Drenner gets the keys now. Ryan was an All-American at X-Attack in college. And I think he's dynamic. I actually think from just a stylistic point of view, he fits more of a Holman type of offense.
I think Marcus Holman gets the keys, but the guy making decisions will be Ryan.
Well, I mean from behind.
Right.
Marcus Holman is not going to be
it's going to be
no.
It's going to be Drenner, Holman, and Cav. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like Cav is going to benefit a ton because Cav can wheel and deal now, and that ball's going to be spinning. And that's what I know Brian Holman, that's an offense he likes.
I was going to say, as I was on the beach in Portugal this past week, listening to the podcast, I was like, as soon as I saw the Lyle news come out, I was like, man, Greg nailed that. Absolutely nailed it. That, the Cannons aren't in as much trouble as the outside world may believe they will be at losing a player like Lyle.
They'll be all right, I think. But like I said, you can't replace like a Michael Jordan, right? But you could also you could have six Scottie Pippens, and you'd be pretty good. So I think they'll be all right.
Yeah. If you had 6 Scottie Pippens,
you'd be more than all right.
a championship every year.
Yeah. You could have six Tony Kukocs, you'd be all right.
I don't know about that one.
But no, we're happy for Lyle, and we wish him and his family the best. And we're really glad that he's taken that time to be with himself and his family, and then we're excited for him to return to the PLL when that time comes. I'm sure we'll see him.
Is he planning on playing in Worlds still, though?
I would assume so.
Yeah.
I would assume that's what he's saving up for. I think that's also a kicker. He might know that that's a lot, right? Going from indoor to that. We've talked about it for the younger guys in past episodes that are
just
doing
had that conversation with Trevor.
I think we've done it with Trav, right? We've done it with a couple, maybe younger Canadians. Don't think it's, but guess what? He's been doing this a while, dude. And these don't come around too often. So this is the year to do it.
I also think, this is like a little bit sidebar, but if you guys watch NHL games, the superstar in the NHL games, they know, like, you don't touch him, like, right? Like you don't lay these big hits on him. And I feel like that's the treatment that Lyle gets in the PLL, where, he's superstar, and you're not going to come high and late on him if he's cutting across the crease. But I went to a Georgia Swarm NLL game, and they don't give a fuck. They kick his ass. Yeah, he's getting his ass kicked out there, cross checks coming through the middle to his back, and I'm like, he gets it a little nicer treatment in the PLL.
No doubt. I think that's longevity-wise. I think all these NLL guys, even Tommy Schreiber, Tommy will tell you about his shoulder, his back, his knee. That ain't getting better through the NLL. So, like I said, this is a hard year. Lyle's also in a different spot than Tommy Schreiber. I think the U.S. national team has a ton of weapons that could let Tommy get into his groove. Lyle's the guy off the rip for the Iroquois, and he is the guy off the rip to make things happen. If he doesn't make it happen, what happens? We don't know. So he's got to be 100%. He's got to be fresh. I understand why he's doing this.
Yeah, and look, I got kids, and I have nothing but respect to make this decision. This is the whole reason I walked away when I did. It's because I wanted to see my kids grow up. Yep. And, God bless them, man.
Yeah, man.
And a little housekeeping with the PLL as well. They announced the 30-man training camp rosters. That's coming up in a couple of weeks. We heard Mike Sisselberger talk about how he's preparing for training camp. We will be sure to give you guys all of the updates and news coming out of PLL training camp. We'll have our ears to the ground there and keep you guys updated with.
We're going to bring in Captain Arestia. We're going to bring our boy.
Exactly. Our boy Arestia is going to come on, chop it up. We can, we'll definitely talk about, maybe find out who's performing well, who we think could be some bubble guys making teams, some guys who surprise, and what teams are looking the best coming out of training camp. And like I said, the NCAA season's winding down. We're getting to some of the best lacrosse of the college season, but that doesn't mean lacrosse season's over because we're just getting started with the PLL, and we're so pumped for that to get going. Fellas, great episode as always. Anything you guys want to end with?
Nope, except happy birthday, Navy and Team USA coach Joe Amplo. Absolute beauty.
Yes, sir. Happy birthday. What a beauty.
Happy birthday, Coach Amplo. And fellas, that is episode 29. As always, a pleasure. Make sure you follow us, subscribe to us on Apple and Spotify. And if you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe to the TorchPro YouTube channel to get all of your lacrosse updates from the #1 lacrosse podcast out there. And fellas, we will see you next week.
To the moon.